Hey guys, you guys are watching Altered Self Wellness and I am Coach Mandy. Today, my mouth is dry. I want to have a conversation about a topic that I think we need to discuss more. So this topic is called the victim control dynamic. And the reason I want to talk about it is because it is such a destructive dynamic to be a part of in any part of it. So the victim control dynamic can best be explained by sharing that you'll see it a lot. Like, it's very easy to see in young children, like siblings. The youngest one will be antagonizing the oldest one. The oldest one gets irritated, blows up or hits the youngest one, who drops down and cries like they've been victimized, and the mother comes in and punishes the older one. So what does this look like for adults, when it's playing out as an adult? So I guess the first thing to know is that the victim control dynamic is something that is learned. It's a learned behavior, usually from someone who has been victimized as a child. And it's a very effective tool, and that's why people duplicate it and replicate it in order to gain control and a sense of esteem. That's what's going on. But what does it look like, and why am I talking about it? Because it is a very destructive force in people's lives and also in social settings, like social structures. There's a perceived victim and then an actual victim in this dynamic, and then there's also the people who are rescuers. The perceived victim usually has low self-esteem. They've been victimized before, so they learn this behavior, and when they are intimidated by someone, they quietly antagonize them in order to get them to lash out so that they can loudly act like they've been victimized. What happens then is that the perceived victim is doing this to gain control over that person and the social setting, as well as to feel good about themselves, because they don't feel good about themselves. So what happens is other people rush in to protect the underdog, right? Because that's what we do as humans. Like, we are, in our brains, we want to understand what is going on. We want to defend the underdog. And when we see someone who looks like they're being mistreated or abused, we want to rush in. A lot of this has to do with the hero complex and feeling good about themselves. So when people rush in, the perceived victim, who is actually the antagonist, gets a sense of feeling good and a sense of control. And people tell them, oh, you were mistreated, The person that is the actual victim in this situation, for them, it's a terribly painful situation to be in. They are confused and angry and hurt and often ostracized out of a social group. So why do I want to talk about this? Because no matter where you're at in this dynamic, if it's playing out, it's not serving you or your greater good. Even, the perceived victim, the one who's antagonizing, is looking for love and belonging and esteem, but everything they're creating in that dynamic feels like that, but it's all inauthentic and not truly what they're seeking. If you're the person actually being victimized, it's lonely and hurtful and traumatizing. It's confusing, and it leads to a lot of self-doubt, and it's just a painful place to be. If you're the person stepping in to rescue the perceived victim, you're creating an alliance against another person, and you're doing more harm than good. That's why I want to have an open discussion about this and just start talking about it. I'm still researching it and learning more about it. The most in-depth video that I have found on YouTube is from Teal Swan, called The Victim Control Dynamic, where she explains this in greater detail than what I'm doing today. I'm really just wanting to introduce the topic, and what's important is to know how to get out of that dynamic. Now, if you're the person who actually is being victimized or assaulted emotionally, the best thing to do is to step out of it. Now, that's not always something you can do, like in a close family or in a family dynamic or a work environment. You may not be able to step aside. So really, how do you protect yourself in this situation? And I would really love to hear what you guys have to say. If you've been a role in this dynamic, how did you step out of it? How did you get away from this? To see what other ideas you have or experience. So please leave a comment and share that, or share it with me privately. The next thing that the perceived victim can do is to obviously not respond or react out of anger, because that gives the person ammunition. It only fuels the fire. And then always kind of keep the ball in their court. Like, what would you like me to have? I think Teal talks about this. What would you like from me? How would you like? And what that will do is kind of reveal that there is nothing they really want from you. They just want a reaction out of you. So you can expose this dynamic. The next thing, if you're the perceived victim, the one who's actually the antagonist, if you find that you're in that position, just know that it's a learned behavior, which means that it absolutely can be unlearned. And it begins with awareness, like knowing that I'm in this dynamic and I'm creating this dynamic off of a false sense of who I am and what I need. There are other options, and there are ways to live authentically and build that belonging and self-worth in other ways. Now, if you're the person jumping into the rescue, it really comes down to alliances. This should be your awareness, your red flag. If you're building an alliance with someone against someone else, you're probably in this dynamic, and it's best to step out. My good friend Rebecca, she really thinks that it's important that we teach our children this as well, teaching them that when they're building an alliance against another person, that it's hurtful and it's okay to step away from that. And while it's important to have a voice and communicate authentically an injustice or something you see that you don't agree with, I don't think that it's okay to attack a person or to get a team of people to attack a person. And if this has ever happened to you, I know you're going, yeah, this is, yeah, you know. But so it's not serving the greater good. And if there's a way to, I think the first step is just building that awareness of what is going on, and then at least deciding how to handle it from there. Okay, you guys, let me know what you think. Tell me what you've learned about from this, and I'll see you guys next week.
About to leave, already packing.